Hey, so this is a video on middles, pivots in the middle, which allows me to get a pivot into a heel, a pivot into a front, or whatever other position I want to. But the prerequisite for this is that the dog must be able to be comfortable getting into the middle position, which is facing the same direction as me, being in between my feet. So at this stage, it doesn't matter whether the default position is a sit, a down, or a stand. We're going to go through those. But like I said, the middle for me has become more of a lab environment for skills we're going to use in the heel position. But it's also used in the social responsibility test because we have to be able to pivot in the middle and we have to be able to pivot at the front positions. So this is how I teach the pivots. The first thing is that I establish that the specific criteria of middle are forward positioning of my dog. I want the head in front, I want the shoulders in front of my knees, and that's all. Because if social responsibility is exactly that, I need to be socially responsible for my dog needs to be able to be socially responsible in a situation. So if needs be, I can collapse my knees on my dog, I can grab a hold of them, and I've got them now in a secure position. I can grab a hold of their collar, their lead, and I can grab a hold of their body. I can sit on them as if I'm riding a horse, whatever, so that I can get out of a sticky situation. If my dog is too far forwards, they can easily slip out. If they're too far backwards, they're going to slip back. So I like to have the shoulders in front of my knees. I haven't looked at the rules for what the perfect picture for the middle is, so you'd have to check that out. And you can adjust that in accordance to what you want. But once I've got that middle position established, just that static middle position, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself a straight edge. In this case, I've got just an old rake. You can go and grab this. Chances are, floating around the home somewhere, you'll have a broom or a mop. You'll have something with a straight edge to it. So now I can essentially lose the broom and I get anything else. So if I've got some sports cones, some traffic cones, or if I put like a longboard or something circular, I can put that down. Now I can actually start working on my pivots. Because now my dog understands the criteria is maintain these contact points. So I go over something, and in this case I'm just going to use this circle. I'm going to show you why later on. But this now allows me to teach my pivots. One of the things that I tend to see in people teaching pivots is that rather than pivoting over this point, thus the name pivot, what we start to do is we start to turn. And that's not a pivot. We start to turn. Do you notice what I'm doing? I'm moving away from the center of the circle. So if I get that rake back out, what I really want to do is I just want to keep moving around. You'll notice that the rake itself is just spinning. But if I'm turning, the rake is moving. I'm changing the angle of the rake. That means the dog has to move more. And that is not the picture of a pivot. A pivot is literally that our dog is doing the same thing as the rake is doing. Their spine is staying in line and it's their body that is moving. Okay? There are two ways to achieve a pivot. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is, I think, more useful if you've got a stand or a down as a default position. Because in the first instance, what you'll do is you're going to close the hips. So remember we were talking about opening the gate in a traverse? Right? What I might do is, our dogs know where the contact points are supposed to be, right behind their shoulders. So I then close that off. That means that as far as head control is concerned, they're in a down or they're in a stand. As I close that off, I'm constricting it, forcing their head control this way. Then I can close the gate, and then they're getting those 2 points of contact as reference again. One of the reasons I don't like this is because we are essentially closing the hips. And as I'm closing the hips, can you see what's happening with the rake? Look at the top of the rake. I put my hand over it, so it makes it a bit easier to see, right? As I'm closing it, the whole rake handle is moving over. So again, the social responsibility is to get you out of a sticky situation and avoid having one in the first place. But if I've got to do this, and I've still got my foot rooted into the ground, this one is shoving me over. The whole thing is making me top heavy. If my dog wants to get over there or scooch out, I'm going to take a plunge over this way. So personal taste for me is I don't like to close the hips. I prefer to have open hips. You can still do it this way. It still achieves a pivot, right? But it's bringing in more gross motor function from you. That means that the picture is less clear for your dog. And when you're using this stuff, it needs to be super clear because your dogs are starting to get hectic or there's another hectic dog coming up. So how do I try to reduce the excitement of my dog? I keep my hips open. If I'm keeping my hips open, it allows me to get a much better balance point. So usually if things are going sideways, I'm going to buckle my hips a little bit because that gets me into an athletic stance and I can go pretty much anywhere I want. And again, I can shuffle this way. What's my dog going to do? The traverse. They're going to come with me. Right? But we're talking about pivots. So what I'm going to do, this is particularly useful if the sit is your default, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the gate. Right? Now I want you to pay attention to this as well. But as I open the gate, I'm changing the contact points on my dog. Rather than the contact point being right behind the shoulders, now the contact point is my heel against their thigh. Now, if I've got them in a down, then the contact point is going to be just the front of their thigh. If they're in a stand, then the contact point is going to be my calf, just in front of their leg on their abdomen. So either which way, doesn't matter what position they're in, the contact point is changing. The tactile input is the highest priority for our dogs. So as I take that away, add this one on, the back end of my dog is going to swing out, the front end is going to naturally come around, and I close the gate, my dog achieves balance because now I've got those contact points back again. But the difference is, it keeps us safer. Right? So look at the rake. Open the gate, close the gate. 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 As I'm opening the gate, my dog is already prepared to swing around. It's a bit more tactile, there's less thought involved for the dog, they're able to react to us more, but that's kind of the point because I'll charge this up and make this look super worthwhile for our dogs, and eventually it becomes a reflexive response, right? They don't think about it anymore, they're just doing it. But you see what's happening to the rake? The rake stays in the center of the circle, it doesn't move. If I close off, like if I try and keep this steady, I'm already off balance. It's really hard for me to close my hips and keep this steady. It's very, very difficult. If I open my hips and practice, then I'm getting better at it. So by the time I get my dog involved, it's much easier for him. You ready? So, let's see what we can do with codes. We haven't done this for a while, so we'll have some resurgence come in. Codes, I don't want you to nurse touch that though. I just want you to concentrate on me. Codes, in. Good girl. So as I come up here, when we started, everything was in a default sit, right? So I just made things harder for myself. Like I said, I haven't done much with this for a very long time, so I'm just going to see how we go. I might just go back to drawing it and see what happens. But you can see what I mean. Contact points, shoulders are in front of my knees, okay? So as I open the gate, you're supposed to shuffle that way. I'll close the gate, open the gate, close the gate. So she's starting to remember it now, right? Open the gate, close the gate. Right? Good girl. So again, open the gate, close the gate. Good. Open the gate, close the gate. Open the gate, close the gate. So what's happening is, what I can also do in order to try and help her out a little bit, as soon as you finish eating gutto, codes, in, no, in. Good go. What I can also do in the formative stages, got some food in my hand, if I'm moving this way, I'm going to get a spin out of her, bring it back, good, and feed. Single piece of food, shove it in front of a dog, open the gate, bring the hand over to the outside of my thigh, close the gate, good. Good. Have to swap hands. Good. Good. Now, by the time I come to the actual pivot, I can't use my props anymore, but by that stage, I've worked out that I'm going to be doing lots of spinning around, but I'm not doing lots of turning around. I'm not walking around a corner, which is what a lot of people start to do in the formative stages, but then we're building a mistake. Codes, in. There we go. So, what I'm going to do now is, I could cross over and turn around. Good. But I find that is just too clumsy. Coming over, I'm stepping on the front paws, all that sort of stuff. I'm not really a big fan of it. So what I'll do is I'll open the gate, close the gate. Codes. Sorry, I'm always too fast, aren't I? Codes, in. So again, by the time I'm getting into these pivots, I'm literally turning on my own axis. I'm not walking around corners, okay? So the outside leg will always lead. Open the gate, close the gate. In the other direction, open the gate, close the gate. Much harder in sit than it is in a stand. If this is your first time practicing, I will do everything in a stand first. That's what I started to do with Kathy. Go, good. Or up on cable reel, whatever you like.